Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brigette, and I'm here today to talk about business beyond bias. I think diversity and inclusion is a very, very hot topic at the moment, and I think everybody here in the room, but also everyone streaming, understands why. Whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether it's on the news, diversity and inclusion is a topic everywhere, and it's not going to go away. I think it's really important that I grab my clicker. I think it's really important that we understand why it's so important. And today I want to share with you the importance of business beyond bias. We'll also share our SAP diversity and inclusion strategy. And more importantly, how we've tapped into a different talent community to really look at how we've changed our culture across SAP. So if you look back on our journey of business beyond bias and over the last century, I think it's really important to look at the changes. We've gone from 15% females in the workforce to 40%. The life expectancy went from 32 to 69. The population, 1.7 to 7 billion. And we've gone from an industrial revolution to the all digital. Just think about how we've changed in that time period. But in my opinion, we're not changing fast enough. The workforce is changing, the demographics are changing, but have we really gone fast enough? I wouldn't be happy with 15% versus 40 in that period of time. So if you just look at the stats, Fortune 500 CEOs, only 4% women and only 1% people of color. That's not fast enough. Just one stat here on Wall Street in 2014, hiring their entry-level employees, 66% were white and 75% male. That's not diverse enough. But there's huge opportunity. Just in 2020 alone, we're going to have 25% of the population is going to be over 55, and 50% will be millennials. How are we going to manage that now as we're changing? And do we have a plan? So the stats are there, and we know it's changing. I'm going to ask you today to think about now, imagine a world beyond bias and what that looks like. And I'm going to ask you to take 3 minutes with me to take a look at that. Can we turn up the volume a little bit?
Classified as Asperger's syndrome.
As a female, I was actually quite scared to apply for the position.
I didn't know whether I could be myself or what was the right kind of thing to do.
Companies just weren't willing to look at me and take me seriously.
It's very common that gays, lesbian, transgender, they don't hire.
Make sure you have enough time for your family and be a good employee and have a good job as well.
I've got a dream. While I'm wiping the desk, I'm like, one day I'll be sitting in this meeting room.
I wasn't sure if my experience was still valid.
My wife was 6 months pregnant when I accepted the job at SAP.
I can say there was jumping and screaming in an elevator.
And after I entered SAP, I got to know the policies that involve diversity.
I felt in that interview like I wasn't being judged at all.
My strange behaviors were not pinpointed.
Studies show that with a more diverse workforce, you get higher profitability and higher growth in revenue as well. So it's a no-brainer, really.
It doesn't matter who I am.
I have a pretty normal life, just in a wheelchair.
What is my sexual orientation?
For the first time, I feel like I'm part of something.
I feel like I'm exuding with happiness about how positive and amazing and supportive the SAP environment is to me as a lesbian, as a woman, as a mom.
I know that SAP will support me as a young mom.
You feel embraced. You feel as you're part of something.
And they believe in people and there's like lots of opportunities for growth.
If you want to develop software, it's a great place to be. And the disability is not important.
I am the face.
I am the face of business
beyond bias.
Of business beyond bias.
I am the face of business beyond bias.
It always gives me the chills to see that video. And just think about a world of business beyond bias. That's just one or two examples. I Okay, one or two examples of some of our programs at SAP, just to give you a slice of what we're embarking on. And we have a long journey, but we've made some successes overall. But I just think watching that video tells you why diversity and inclusion matters. We have a completely global and diverse population. The massive skills shortage we hear all the time, how do we tap into that? Companies are social and transparent. There is no place to hide. And we have laws to fight inequity at work in every country and every day that we embark on. And the bottom line results are there. So why are we having such pushback and holdback? Just to look at some more results on the bottom line. 25% of diversity's top companies outperform stock by 25%. 35% of ethnically diverse companies are more likely to outperform their peers. And 48% of gender diverse management teams have higher operating margins. The business case is there, we've heard it. And we at SAP have looked at our overpopulation overall. Let's look at our demographics and also those strong business cases to build a strong and diverse foundation. Just a little bit about SAP. We have 84,000 employees worldwide. We have a target of females in management by 25% by 2017. I'm happy to say at the end of 2016, we're at 24.5%. We're not only going to meet our target, we're going to exceed that target and keep going. And we're still trending highest in the high-tech world. As all of you in the room and all streaming online as well, we have 5 generations in the workforce. That means they have different needs, they have different expectations, and we have to be flexible and think about what's coming next. How do we attract, how do we retain, and how do we develop differently? Because one size does not fit all. But I think the one thing I love the most about SAP is we have 150 different nationalities in 130 countries. That diversity, the learning, the constant education is something I love about working at SAP. And we've taken it and looked at our overall mission and vision, which is to help the world run better and improve people's lives. That's a big mission, right? But we've taken that mission and vision and looked at our diversity and inclusion approach on 4 pillars. One around gender intelligence. I talked a little bit about our overall females in management goal, but we've gone even beyond that over the past years, and we've gotten the EDGE certification. We're the first multinational high-tech organization to have this certification, and we went even as far in the United States to even be awarded the Equity Pay Act for gender. It's huge. So these are some of the smaller steps that turn into big results. Culture and identity, I think you see in the video, it's about having the right environment where you can thrive. We can no longer just have a diverse organization. Set up diverse teams. Are you leveraging them enough? Are we pulling out the diversity in each and every person to get the best innovation, the best solution, and the best environment? Third, we talked about cross-generational intelligence. This is the area where we have to learn from each other every generation. How are we getting upward feedback? Have an early talent on your team. Have them challenge your ideas and making sure you're thinking big and broad enough. And finally, differently abled people. This is one of the areas I think that is just little simple things sometimes. We don't have to just think about big bang programs. Just alone, our presentation today with the black background, the bright colors, that helps for those who are visually impaired. So if you think about the little details, and then how do you put those things together to think very different every single day? And I'd like to take a little bit of time today to talk a little bit more about differently able people, and where I think we've gone and talked a little bit about a different talent segment around autism, which is a developmental disorder that impacts the ability to communicate and interact. And we kicked off our Autism at Work program roughly about 5 years ago. And you saw those stats in the beginning of why does business beyond bias matter. And we looked at some of the opportunities. 85% of the people on the spectrum are unemployed. Yet we have 50,000 unfilled STEM jobs in the Bay Area alone. And we talked about this massive skill shortage. I truly don't believe it's there. Technology is changing so fast. We need to talk about how do we give people enablement quickly? How do we skill and ramp up? And actually, how do we look differently for talent and give them the opportunity? We just talked about the strengths just before with Angie. Think about what they have versus what they don't have. But we saw an opportunity with the people on the autism spectrum with a strong fit on high-tech backgrounds and also the roles. And we really want to differentiate talent for the best solutions. So we embarked on a pretty great journey. And if I think just stepping back a little bit around autism, what do these famous people all have in common? They're all on the spectrum. And they've given us gifts, all of us, right? Beyond themselves. And I think it's really important to think about how you see talent, how you see bias, and how you break that down every day, because look how famous these people are and the gifts they've given to us. And at SAP, we've now have 116 either employees, contractors, and interns across 9 countries and 17 locations. It's phenomenal. And I think what's really, really important to talk about a little bit as well is just a couple stories. And I could tell you 100 stories, right? But I think a couple that are important. Our very first employee, he was hired several years ago. He had a master's, a bachelor's degree, but he was unemployed for 2 years, and he graduated cum laude. He came into SAP. He not only was striving as a project manager, but he was able to speak at the UN and CNBC. So he's gone even above and beyond even just the work at SAP. Another story about a woman who came into SAP. She had 25 years industry experience. She has her master's degree, yet she was underdeployed for 13 years. That meant she just couldn't get an opportunity where she could thrive. After 11 months coming into SAP, she won the hackathon against all of our technologists across SAP, 84,000 people. So you can see the impact in the environment, and she's working on the Internet of Things, the future of how we're going to engage with different technologies around the world, and she won the hackathon. So I think what's really important about these stories is not only about putting a program out there, but it's about challenging bias every day. And the impact of autism at work program for SAP not only aligns with our strategy to make the world run better and improve people's lives, but it challenges the mindset of talent. So it goes and pushes the boundaries and the borders, because we're not just thinking about hiring like ourselves. We're thinking completely beyond the boundaries and thinking differently about how do I structure the work? How do I bring in different people to have different solutions? And are we the most innovative company we can be? We have to tap into every different type of talent. But I think for me, the most important thing that we are most proud of and most either emotional or touching as well is really about how it's changed our culture. People want to be at SAP. When we launched this program and when we showcase the different examples, people send us notes, I'm so proud to be here. And it also helps us attract people. Attract, retain, and develop, but because you know what? We're doing something bigger and better beyond just developing and driving software. So that, for me, is the biggest impact for autism from a cultural and an identity perspective. So if you see, we talked a little bit today about the importance of business beyond bias. We talked about a strategy. Step 1 is have a strategy, have a plan. Go after what you think you can change, and you'll get followers and get support. But most importantly, completely think differently about how you source and find and build talent. And I ask every single person today to question yourself and ask yourself, how will you live your life beyond bias? Today, tomorrow, and every single day. Thank you for having me, everybody. And thank you, HR.com.